this Thursday, Ron DeSantis is going to take the stage with Gavin Newsom on Fox with Sean Hannity. I'm just wondering, do you think, Dr. Carter, this is any way like undermining of the vice president to have someone, a governor of such a big state like California? There are a lot of surrogates for the president, but this is a really unusual role for a surrogate. And it really signals to the world, I guess, that he is presidential and kind of, jumps the line in front of our vice president.
I mean, perhaps. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what this yields for either of them, because I don't know that this gives any purchase for either Ron DeSantis or Gavin Newsom. I mean, Gavin Newsom has his own crosses to bear. I don't know that he is presidential in the sense of the numerous allegations that have been his way, some ethical missteps personally, not necessarily with relationship to his office. So I don't know that this makes him more attractive. I think maybe he thinks it does. I don't know what you get as a Gavin Newsom rolling around in the mud with a Ron DeSantis, as my colleague pointed out, Dr. Walker said. I mean, DeSantis has been flagging for quite some time. I mean, we don't even really talk about him as much as we did anymore. He is not the heir apparent. And so I don't know that Gavin Newsom gets anything out of this. I don't know what Ron DeSantis gets out of this. I mean, he is not a contender. He's not in the race. He is not a person you need to be focused on. You need to be thinking about the Nikki Haley's and the Donald Trumps and the other folks who are still in the Republican primary field, yet you're spending time having what is essentially going to be a shouting match / pretend conversation with someone when there are no stakes. So I don't know what we get out of this for either person other than, stroking their own egos, because I can't imagine that Sean Hannity is going to be a fair arbiter. And I certainly don't think that anyone's opinions about either person is going to change over this display, this exhibition to nowhere. I just think it's, a fool's errand, quite frankly.
Well, we do know Dr. Walker and Dr. Carter, politicians don't do anything unless there's something in it for them. And for Gavin Newsom, maybe it's trying to show up some of his moderate bona fides. He's had two really blistering interviews with Sean Hannity where he's gotten good remarks and he held his own, that he admitted to things, like going to a restaurant during COVID and some other things, but that he slammed the Republicans. And if you're running for president from California as a Democrat, you might be seen by the Midwest and other states as too progressive. So might this not be, Dr. Walker, his way of speaking to those independents and those Republicans who he probably feels like he needs to woo if he's going to have a chance at president?
Areva, I think this debate, which we've been talking about for a while, right, as they negotiated details, they really teased this out for a while. This is like two guys from college who are frat brothers, not Divine Nine, though, to be clear, who are frat brothers getting together. It's been a while, and they were kind of most egotistical guys kind of getting together. They had a couple drinks, and now they're just kind of getting together. And like say, years ago, I always wanted to figure out if we had this debate about this. I always figure out, I want to know who won, right? So it's like they're reliving, trying to regather, the past, from like 15, 20 years ago. And look, I don't know where Dr. Carter hit on the notes. I don't really know where this gets either one of them. Listen,
but address my point. Gavin Newsom wants to be president. We know that. We know that right. For many people, he is way too liberal. So the only reason you'd go on to Fox is you're trying to talk to a different audience and paint yourself in a different light. There's no other reason. I don't think it's that deep. I think he's pretty transparent.
Yeah, I think the point is a good one. I think also we have to matter with politicians and their ego. Right. So, ideally, no Republican is seriously considering the former governor of California for president. It's not going to happen. And maybe his political consultants, because that's who he's talking to. He's not talking to his staff. He's talking to political consultants who are saying, maybe say to him, hey, listen, this is an opportunity for you to speak a wider audience. And look, he's a great surrogate. Let me be clear about that. He's excellent at responding to questions as it relates to policy issues relating to the Biden administration, okay? And certainly he talks about some of the great things he's done in California. But the reality is he's in my personal opinion, he's not going to be the nominee in 4 years or 8 years. And so, but
that's deep. Well, let's put it like this: we know he's going to want to be now, whether he ends up being it or not. But I want to go back to my point about Kamala Harris, because there are lots of ways to be a surrogate, and there's now a bunch of articles that are running about this showdown that's going to happen between these two powerful Californians who used to be allies. And I know, you guys are really smart. You get the nuances, but to somebody turning on the television and sees this tall, handsome guy right out of Central Casting who's holding his own on Fox, to someone who's not as enmeshed in politics might see him as, wow, he looks really presidential. I just think we're dismissing him in a way that maybe we're overlooking, again, not how we, and I'm going to put us in the bubble, see it, but think of the 9 to 11 million Fox viewers that tune in that have not seen a guy like Governor Newsom on Fox Network.
I have to agree with Dr. Walker. I don't think the people who watch Fox News will ever go for a Gavin Newsom. And it's not taking away from the fact that he is very tall, he is handsome, he speaks well, he is good at these debates, this tete-a-tete. I actually think Ron DeSantis is outmatched in that respect. I just don't see the people who tuned in to Fox News into a candidate like a Gavin Newsom. There's no moderation.
But if you're the vice president, your staff, what is your staff saying? I would imagine the staff is saying, why is this guy doing this debate? You think that the vice president's staff says, oh, that's nothing, just wave it off?
I don't know if you say it's nothing, but there's really not a lot that Kamala Harris can do in her role as vice president. I mean, she has a race coming up that she needs to be focused on, and maybe she'll think about Gavin Newsom in another 4 years. But I do think that Gavin Newsom will not be the guy. I don't care how much he wants it. I just don't see it for him. And I'm not dismissing him. He has had a number of roles in a really important state that is very valuable for Democrats, and certainly has tendencies to sometimes go a little more conservative, right? But I just think the net positives of a Gavin Newsom, I don't know if they play well nationally. I just don't see him, even though he might be trying to leapfrog a Kamala Harris. She's been in the White House. He has not. He wants to touch it. He has not been able to. And I think that will still rule the day. Now, whether she's able to translate these 8 years into, or potential 8 years, into a presidential bid remains to be seen. But I don't know that Gavin Newsom, even as he is campaigning and trying to make his national profile grow, if he's going to be able to move the needle. And certainly she's a little bit hamstrung right now in this position.
Well, clearly none of us know what's going to happen in the next election, beyond 2024, but name recognition is everything to a politician. And having your name be a household name, i.e. Donald Trump, where your kids know it, the babies know it, the dogs know it, is invaluable. There's something called unearned media that's happening here. This ain't a paid ad. This is 90 minutes on the most watched cable station in the country, and then played over on all of the streaming sites. Gavin Newsom is not the governor of the state of California because he's not an astute politician and strategist. Now, obviously where this gets him long term, we don't know, but short term, some folks would call it a stroke of brilliance, because it is platforming him in a way. Can we name any other governors, Democratic governors? Look how much we're talking about him, Dr. Walker. Can the average person name another Democratic governor?
So I think you made some really important points, but let me add this, right? Because we have the election coming up next year, and VP Harris and President Biden, right, running against Donald Trump, and what other crazy person they find as a Republican for VP. Next year, no one's going to remember this. 4 years from now, and this is why if someone is working political campaigns, I would advise them not to do this, because there's no win in this, in my opinion, long term. Short term, does he get some press the next couple of days, maybe a week? Maybe. But the bottom line is, if he was more aligned with someone who's going to actually planning on, seeking the nomination, if President Biden wasn't, obviously going to be the nominee, then I think for me, it's a different conversation.
Wait a minute. You said if he was more aligned, he is the person.
No. What I mean, I'm talking about Newsom from California. If there was an opportunity for him to actually have a run for president and seek the nomination, I think that it would be a different situation.
And I'm saying, I think he's waiting in the wings. He's one of the people that if something happened to Biden and for some reason Biden wasn't able to continue his campaign, I'm almost certain you'd see a Gavin Newsom throw his hat in the ring. So I think he's aligned with himself. He's very ambitious, and he's made it clear to everyone, particularly those of us that live in the state of California, that is his aspiration.